program this morning, and we'll begin with a few introductions. First of all, I'll introduce myself. I am Pat Taylor, the Acting Director of the Regional Summer Institute, and I'm also a mathematics instructor here at Thomas Nelson Community College. And I'd also like to introduce some of our steering committee members are here today, I see. Joyce Weeks from Hampton. Joyce, you want to put your hand up? Joyce Weeks. And Rex Evans from the counseling department here at Thomas Nelson. And Jean Wingo, the division chairman of the Division of Science and Mathematics and Science, or whatever that division is we belong to. Okay, our special guests today, however, are our students, our RSI students. We, for the first time, have both groups together, the 1990 students and the 1991 students, and we'd like to recognize you all. Would the York County 1990 students stand up and let's see who you are. These are our first RSI class of 1990. Stand up, you all. Let's see who you are. There are only 3. Come on, there are more than that. How about the 1990 Hampton students? Where are the Hampton students? And the 1990 Newport News students? Okay. Would the 1990 York students like to stand again? No. No? How about the 1991 students from York County? Where are the 91 York students? The 1991 Hampton students. And the 1991 Newport News students. Well, we are very delighted to have you all visit with us today on the Thomas Nelson campus. And we have an exciting program for you. We have a speaker, Terry Morris, who is an electrical engineer at NASA Langley Research Center. And he's also a 1990 graduate of Mississippi State University, and he participated in NASA's co-op program during that time. And I don't want to steal too much of his show here. I'm sure he has a lot of exciting things to talk to you about. And without any more to do here, I present to you Terry Morris.
Like she said, my name is Terry Morris, and I am an electrical engineer at NASA's Langley Research Center. You guys are such a live crowd out here, I'm going to tell you that much. I'd like to talk about education. And education means a lot of things to a lot of different people. But I'd like to tell you education from my viewpoint and from my background. Most people, I just want to give somebody out of the crowd, and I want to just ask you, anybody, when you think of an electrical engineer, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? What was that? Somebody, anybody. Money. 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 You're exactly right. Money. Is there anybody else? Is there anything else that you think about when you say engineer? What was that? Computers. You're exactly right. But what about the person? Do you think of a person as like a brainchild to get there, or they're just gifted? How do you think they get there? Huh? Education. Who's that education? Somebody, give them a round of applause, please. You're exactly right. Education. And that's the route that I took to work at NASA. I just want to start and tell you a little bit about my life, to let you know that no matter what background you came from, or where you are right now, that you can be anything you want to be. Just about anything you want to be, you can be. The type of salary you want to make, if you're willing to work hard enough, you can do it. I was an abandoned child. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I was kicked out of the house from a very young age. I had to sleep outside in the alleys. I had to eat out of the garbage can for food. And probably when you look at me, you're like, oh no, this can't, no, you're lying. Well, this is the truth. In fact, I've been speaking around the country, starting at the White House, the Pentagon, the CIA headquarters, FBI headquarters, the State Department, the Smithsonian Institute, and you just about name it, from Los Angeles, from LA, from San Francisco to New York, to Alamogordo, New Mexico, Arizona, Denver, Colorado, you just about name it, and I've been there to speak. I've had pictures with just about all of President Bush's Secretary Cabinet members. I've done many things, and it all stemmed from a desire to better myself. Living on the street, I said, well, I'll put it like this. I'll let you try to look through my eyes, okay? I'm on the street. I don't have much clothes. And I'm looking at the other people driving by. I'm looking at all the other things that are happening. And I'm like, how come the good things didn't happen to me? How come, I wasn't born in a rich family? How come, why? How come this didn't happen to me? How come all these things didn't happen? Well, instead of just always asking the question why, saying, well, I could never be like that person. Or I see somebody that's very affluent, somebody that's very articulate, somebody that's wealthy, somebody that's well-to-do. And I'm like, gosh, I wish I could be like that person. I wish I could wake up in the morning and go out to my car and, and have a house and travel and stuff like that. Well, I do those things today. Whereas there was a time in my life that I couldn't do those things. In fact, I couldn't even dream or imagine that I could be able to do those things. I was taken off of the streets and put into a boys' home. I guess I was about your age. I was from age 14 to about 18. I was in the boys' home for about 3.5 years. And I learned a lot of things. But the number one thing I learned was education. I realized, I heard this, I don't know where I heard it from, but I guess it's like a parable. And it's a parable about the fisherman. It's like, there's a difference between giving somebody a fish and teaching somebody how to fish. The biggest difference is, if you're hungry today, and I take you to a lake and I rod and reel, and zoom, and I get you a fish, okay, you can eat today. I gave you something. But I could have given you something more, and that was knowledge. I could have taught you how to fish. Because when I teach you how to fish, you can feed yourself for life. I gave you one thing, and you can use it for the rest of your life. And I started realizing the difference between just giving somebody money and giving them knowledge. I decided to go after knowledge and education to better myself. Some people are born rich. Some people are born smart. Some people are born well-to-do. I wasn't. So I said, I still want to get to that point where I see these people are. How do I do it? I better myself. And I decided to do that, well, in my case, I decided to do it through God and through education, through treating people right, and through bettering myself. In this boys' home, they had all these rules. You had to wake up 6 o'clock every morning, go to bed 9 o'clock every night, and this was every day. It was very strict. And but one thing that they did that I didn't understand then, but I understand now, they was telling me about education. They said, well, we're going to set aside an hour every day for you to study. I'm like, well, what if I don't have anything to study? They're like, well, you're going to study anyway. And I'm like, how would that make you feel? I'm like, oh my gosh, I got better things to do. I got the homeboys to hang around, play some b-ball. But I decided I'm going to do it anyway. So I did that. I'm sorry, I must be missing what's funny. Is there something funny? Okay. The point is, when I went through all this, I learned something very valuable. I lost my family. Well, I was abandoned, so I didn't have a family. Didn't have any brothers or sisters. I didn't have a mother. I didn't have a father. I was kicked out on the streets. I didn't have a house. I didn't have a bed to sleep in. I didn't have a change of clothing. But I found out there was something that I could have that nobody could take from me. They could take the food on the table away from me. They could take the water out of the cup away from me. But there was something that they could not take away from me. That once I had it, I had it for life. That was education. That was knowledge. And when I was in ninth grade, I noticed this because that's when I got off the streets and they started to put me in school. It's the most amazing thing happened. The teacher would say, okay, read chapter 2 and we're going to have a test at the end of the week. Okay, I'd read chapter 2 and I'd study hard and I'd remember what was in there. And then when we had a test, I made 100. I'm like, man, that's incredible. And all the other students would look at me and like, cool, how'd you do that? I'm like, it was simple. I studied. That's all it was. I studied. I applied myself. It wasn't easy. And sometimes your attention span, you want to do other things. You want to, well, there's other things I could be doing. I decided to stick with it. And sometimes you want to be other places. You want to do other things. But it's like an investment. Do you know what an investment is? Like a sacrifice. You put so much into here, and you expect to get so much out. You may not get it the next day. You may not see the rewards of working hard or studying hard. You may not see it a week or a month from that time. Maybe not even a year. For me, it took about 5 to 10 years. I went to school in ninth grade. I started studying. And before that time, I didn't care anything about school. I was like, please, another day. Present, here, Terry, here, and that was it. When I started learning the importance of education, at that time, that's when I started being on the honor roll. I started winning scholarships. I started being on the television. I started being in newspapers, in magazine articles. You just about name it, just because of education. And there was something, because I studied a lot in ninth grade. When it came to, how can I say it? Any of you know about vocational education? Anybody? Somebody? Anybody? Vocational education. Well, in my class, I was in Mississippi at this time. I got into vocational education, and there were some people that looked down on me because I was in VOTEC. Because I was also taking the hard classes, and they would look at me like, what are you doing over there with them? Like, ain't you better than them? And there was something that there's some people that get real high and mighty and they forget that we're all human. We all have to learn, we all have to eat, we all have to drink. I decided there's something there, I can get something out of that. Just like I can get something from over here. It was my decision. What do you want out of life? What's your dream? What's your goal? I had always wanted to work at NASA. I had always wanted to be an astronaut. And when I grew up, they said I was a nobody. You'll never do it. It's impossible. It's an impossible dream. Gosh, it's unrealistic. I said, no, I think I can do it. Despite what they said, despite my circumstances, I believed that I could do it. I believed that if I worked hard enough, I could do it. I went to high school, graduated with honors. You just about name it. 3 years cross-country state champion. Math contests, science contests, science fairs. In fact, when I graduated, that's when NASA called me from, the NASA here called me from Mississippi. I was in Mississippi, and they asked me, would I like a job? And that was pretty amazing. I'm a senior in high school. They asked me would I like to work for them. I didn't call them. But they saw that I wanted to study. They saw I wanted to learn. They saw I wanted to better myself. And they called me. I mean, can you imagine you're a senior in high school and they're like, what are you going to do after high school? I had friends. Some of them wanted to drop out. Some of them wanted to just, well, let me just work, or let me just do this. Some like, I want to go to college. Some want to go to community college. Some want to go to universities. Some don't want to do anything. Some want to get married, get their MRS degree or MR degree. And so I decided I want to do something with my life. I want to do something. NASA called me, and that's when I got introduced to the co-op program. Through the co-op program, I learned things that I never would have learned otherwise. And all the co-op program is hands-on experience. By the time I graduated from Mississippi State University, I had some of the most unique experience in the world not just in my class, but in the world. By the time I graduated from Mississippi State, I could build my own carbon dioxide solar pump heat transfer lasers from the ground up. I could work with spectrophotometers. I could do many other things that nobody else in my class could do. So when I graduated, or by the time I got ready to graduate with my bachelor's in electrical engineering, everybody, it's like all the seniors are getting ready to send out their resumes for this and for that. And there are some students, they're like, nobody wants me. Nobody wants to hire me. What's wrong? And what's the one thing that these employers are looking for? Because one day, believe me, one day, you'll probably be looking for a job. And you'll probably want a really nice paying job. Who was that back there that said money? It was one thing, money. You want a nice paying job. There are some people that work 80 hours a week and they don't make enough to even pay the rent. There are some people that they work like, excuse the language, but they work like a dog and they don't get much for it. Then there's others. See, they're paying for it. They're paying the hard way. There's an easier way. And you've got it right in your hands right now. Education. That's the route I took, education. By the time I graduated, I had companies fighting over who wanted me the most. I had some offers that starting out at $40,000, starting salary, just coming right out of college. And that's pretty good. I don't know if does $40,000 sound good to anybody here? No, that's not enough for somebody. Who said no? No, that was you. 40,000 is not good enough. No, it's not good. Well, what's a good starting salary for you? 50 or 60,000? 50 or 60,000? Oh, anybody here? Is 50 or 60,000? Will that like just barely make it? You'll just be barely making it. Well, what was that over there? Well, I'm going to say that is a substantial amount of money, and you can live quite well on that amount of money. That's what I wanted. I had people that were sitting right next to me. I went to a community college for a little while. I had people sitting right next to me, and I'd say, "Well, what do you want to do?" And they'd say, "Well, I don't like school." Y'all don't know anybody like that. I know you know. But I did. And they're like, "I don't like school. It's too hard." Well, I'm going to tell you right. One thing, it is hard. A lot of times it is hard. I'll tell you where the payoff comes. Right now, some of the same people that sat next to me that all they did was party. I'm not saying don't have a good time, but that's all they did. Period. I mean, all they did was party. Party, party, party. That's all they did. I know I don't make a good MC Hammer, but one day I will. That's a joke. That was a joke. Okay. Some of the same people that sat right next to me in class, at this very day, today, they're still looking for a job. They've graduated for years. They're still looking for a job. And you may, you're sitting there now, I mean, you don't know what it's going to be like. But I'm telling you what it's going to be like. And I'm telling you, you're either going to pay now, or you're going to pay later. I chose to pay now. I chose to study hard and to apply myself and to get an education. When I got that education, that was the best thing that I'd ever done. Next thing you know, have you heard of United Way? Anybody? Yeah. Well, United Way, they looked at my life and they're like, hold it. They saw I was getting degrees, I was winning senior design projects, I was doing everything. By the way, I just want to tell you the name of my senior design project. I won first place at a university for this. Are you ready? Are you sure?
Yes.
Positive?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the name of my project was the use of Fourier analysis in the Picot-symmetrized dot pattern for visual and mathematical characterization of waveform segments obtained from electronic recording of active feeding behavior. I won first place. I won first place. For just the title alone, I won. I studied hard. I applied myself. And United Way, they called me up, and it was neat because in college, you play pranks on one another. I had, my friends would call up, Domino's Pizza? And you're like, I didn't order pizza. Yes you did. No, I didn't. And they played jokes. They played jokes. Okay, well, I had somebody call me and says, we want to make a movie about your life. We'll send some people from Hollywood. We'll send them from Washington, D.C., and we'll send them from Memphis, and we'll bring them down to where you are in Mississippi, and we're going to take a movie of you. I'm like, they're not going to get me with this. I'm like, so I decided to play along with it. I'm like, oh yes, darling, yes, send them on. And I thought it was like one of my colleagues just playing a joke. Well, I didn't know these were actually people from Washington, D.C. that were calling. And they meant that. They were going to make a film, and I was joking. I thought it was a joke. And next thing you know, we had people coming off of planes from Hollywood, from D.C., coming from all over just to make a movie of me. So they made a movie of me, and they asked me, they said, well, we made this film. We want you to go to San Francisco. I ain't got any money to go to San Francisco. They're like, you have worked hard enough. You have done something that's very exemplified. You have made something of yourself despite of your circumstances, despite of how rich or poor your family is, despite of how smart or how not so intelligent your family is, or your surroundings. You made something of yourself, and that made them feel good. We're going to make a movie of your life. So I went to San Francisco. They showed the movie, and I'd get up and I'd make a speech. And then the White House would call. We'd like you to come and speak at the White House. Have any of you been to the White House? Anybody? Do you like it there? Was it nice? You're right. There's a lot of it that was boring. But then there's some things that are very, very extravagant and very nice. Well, do you realize what an opportunity it is to speak at the White House? All of this came from where? Where did this come from? Oh, gosh, you got this read my mind. You're exactly right. Education. I decided to apply myself, vocational education, cooperative education, and just doing well in school, studying hard, putting forth the effort, putting a lot into it. I got a lot out of it. Right now I work with robotics. I work with a $3 million robotic manipulator, the laboratory telerobotic manipulator system, a master slave force reflection control robot. And I work on all that, and I do control algorithms for it, and I enjoy my job. I love what I do, and all of it came from education. If you got anything out of what I said today, I hope it was beneficial to you. But the point, this is the main point. You have to do something with your life. It's your life. It's in the palm of your hand. You can either give it away, you can throw it away, or you can make something out of it. I'm pretty sure all of you have dreams, you have hopes. You know you want to be something. Let me just ask, what do some of you want to be when you grow up? Like when you get older, what do you want to be? You want to be an engineer? Are you serious? Anybody else? Anything else you want to be? Anybody? Raise your hand. What do you want to be? You like to be football. But do you know how you can be in football? Paying your dues. You can be a football player if you want to. Pay your dues. Put in the time. Put in the effort. Don't give up. Don't give in. I'm glad that I was allowed the opportunity to be here today. I'm glad that you're here today, and I hope you got something out of this on education. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Terry. Terry, we'd like to thank you for being here today, and I want to present you with one of our RSI t-shirts so you can really be a part of the Regional Summer Institute. Thank you. We have some refreshments for you you all. We have cake and some drinks up here. Jean Gordick and Barbara Mowry are assisting me this morning and will help with serving the refreshments. And if you all would like to stay for a few minutes and enjoy and socialize with each other, this is your opportunity. And thank you very much for being here today.
Oh, you should have told me about it. Could have been, you could have been at the school right here. For what? No.
I think they get ridiculous when you have to
Come on, baby.
It's like, I know they're better about it. You want to know? Hey. And that's why when you go to school, when you get out of that day, you're like, God, I know so many people that, they're out of school, maybe they didn't give a degree or they didn't care about school. And years when they're out of school, and I realized